Family-run funeral homes are becoming less common than they used to be. Today on the Director's Playbook podcast, we've asked the Hoff family from southern Minnesota to share with us just how they've been able to stay independent and thrive in the land of 10,000 lakes. Man, it's good to see you all. Good afternoon. I've been looking forward to this for a long time, and I haven't seen you folks in a little while, but I'm surrounded by Hoffs, and it's going to be a fun time together. So I really appreciate you all being here. Obviously, today we're talking about the unique journey of running a family-owned funeral home, passing the business from one generation to the next, and just how serving families extends beyond the funeral home and into the wider community. So that little sets the stage for us a bit. And Tim, I'd love just to kick this off. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your business and just kind of how this got started over the years, if you don't mind.
Hi, I'm Tim Hoff with Hoff Funeral Home, and I appreciate the chance to be here, Paul. Thank you. With me today is my daughter, Ashley Hoff-Czaplewski, and Tyler, my son, Tyler Hoff. From Ashley's in the Winona area, and Tyler's in Austin, Minnesota area, about an hour plus away from where Ashley is. My dad, Lowell, grew up on a farm in central Wisconsin, and he ended up going into funeral service. And there's a story behind that. I'll let one of these guys tell that. But he ended up going into funeral service and worked for funeral homes in Milwaukee area, Harder and Ritter Funeral Homes in Milwaukee. And this is the 1960s. He always wanted to own his own. So he found this funeral home in St. Charles, Minnesota for sale. 45 call business, and moved the entire family to Minnesota, included my mom, my brother, and my sister. And I joined him in 1983 when I got married, and we bought the competitor at that point and grew the business to 90 call. Then we went into Winona, Minnesota, a larger neighboring town, and some other towns in the area over the years. Now this book of business is about 450 services a year.
Wow.
And Tyler, I'll let you talk maybe more to your book of business.
We are over in Austin, Minnesota, and Blooming Prairie. I came over here about almost 5 years ago now, and since then we added one of our competitors in town, and also 3 more locations down in Iowa, just across the border. So we're serve roughly 400 to 425 families a year, and we try to do that with personal service in mind on everyone.
Well, that keeps you busy serving all those families,
Oh,
going from
absolutely.
location to location. So Ashley, what was it like for you growing up in the funeral home?
Growing up in the funeral home was, people ask me what it was like, and for us, it was just normal. That's what we knew. But looking back, it's just kind of funny to think about. I mean, one of the games we played, didn't we call it dead? And someone would have to lay down, and we'd position their arms and pretend to do their makeup, and but that was our life.
So how do you win this game? What's the purpose?
You didn't.
Eventually, Dad would get a call and have to go to work, and it would stop.
Of
Yeah.
course. Duty calls.
Yeah. But the apartment that we lived in the apartment above the funeral home for, quite a few years before Mom and Dad built the house. And, I remember if there was a visitation going on downstairs, we had to be really quiet, or Dad would call upstairs and tell us to be quiet. And
Mom would say that there's the sad people downstairs. We have to quiet for the sad people.
so it's just
It
something,
was not wrong.
yeah, we grew up, and, it was just a part of life for us. So it was.
And so now, fast forward all these years, you're running a funeral home business. And so, what can you share with the group about your responsibilities right now?
So currently, I own and manage this side of our Hoff Funeral Homes, the original part of it, with our biggest location in Winona, and we have 8 locations in our area.
So how many families are you serving there in your location there, Ashley?
In our locations here, we're serving about 450 families. So
Wow.
we have 7 locations in Minnesota, and then one right across the river in Wisconsin, La Crosse, Wisconsin as well.
Fantastic. So this question is for Tim. So Tim, did you just always hope your kids would join in the family business like you did, or what were your thoughts?
I guess I always hope someone would follow the footsteps, but I don't remember ever, they can answer this better than I can, ever encouraging them or pushing them in any way. It's something you have to want to do. It's got to be in your heart. It can't be your parents' dream. It's got to be yours.
Yep. And I'd echo that. I don't ever remember being pushed into it or anything. I actually started college for nursing, decided that wasn't right. And I'm pretty sure that when I called home to say that I was not going to follow nursing and I was thinking about this, that mom and dad were completely surprised.
That would be accurate, right?
Yeah. But
I had always heard that being a funeral director is a calling. It's a bit of a ministry. And so, Tyler, did you feel it's the same way for you? Did you felt called to the family business?
Yeah, I kind of, I was Dad's little buddy and Grandpa's little buddy growing up. So I felt like I took every chance I could to kind of help out at the funeral home. I was, probably 2 feet tall, wearing a little suit, handing out memorial folders growing up. So I growing up, I kind of was consistently said, I think I want to go into funeral service until I got to high school. And then I kind of just, had a moment of, I want to make sure what I'm doing is going to be forever. So I want to make sure I'm making the right decision. So I started going for economics in college. And then it just, it didn't feel right to me. And I kind of knew, I didn't want to say it was my plan B to go to funeral service, but I just wanted to see what else was out there. And, it was made apparent that it was the right decision for me to join the family and come back working in funeral service.
We all go into funeral service for a variety of reasons. So my dad's reason was a little different than these. Growing up on the farm, he didn't really appreciate that. And when asked why he went to funeral service, he'd come back with, "I'd do anything to get off that darn farm."
He was motivated.
Yes, right.
There's a lot better ways to make a living.
Correct.
Farming's tough business. Well, Tim, I guess as the father and presumably the one who passed the torch here, how did you prepare Tyler and Ashley over their life to be in leadership in the funeral business?
Looking back, I guess I didn't formally help them prepare. I think mainly as they were, in working for the family business. Ashley came back not a year or so out of college in early 20s. And Tyler, you were about that roughly when you came back? I forget exactly.
I had completed my internship, so I was just over a full year out of college.
Okay. And I don't remember ever really formally working on a training plan. I think I tried to involve them, in new ideas or concepts and decisions and discuss those things. But I don't know if they have a different perspective on that. It's kind of, I'm not the greatest trainer, and that's a fault. But just be observant, learn from those around you.
Well, I'm just looking. You started the funeral home it was 90 calls roughly when your father had it, right, Tim?
45 when he had it, and then I joined him when I got married. As we bought the competitor, it went to 90. Yep.
But then it grew to 7 locations, serving over 400 and something families a year.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. So there had to be some leadership and some wisdom that was passed along to Tyler and Ashley. I think you're being somewhat humble in that. But it doesn't happen by accident is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and I think it wasn't necessarily a lot of intent to it, but I just remember kind of always growing up, and seeing Dad. There's a few, key moments, key funerals growing up that I remember watching Mom and Dad work and the difference it made in the community. A younger person that died in a car accident right after graduating high school. There's a family that we knew well that passed away, and then going through when our grandpa died, going through that process and seeing it from the family side and seeing how you're led through, and you kind of feel numb the whole way through, but there's someone there to shepherd you to get you where you need to be, and I think just seeing the example they laid out for us growing up really put us in a good spot to be successful from the start.
Ashley, do you remember the first family you waited on and served and took care of all by yourself?
I remember, yes, one of them, and it was actually, they were kind of a difficult family.
Okay, we'll move along.
I was just thinking back on that as you're saying it.
It's a cake. We'll leave that one alone.
Welcome to the funeral business. We'll give you the most difficult family we can ever have.
Oh.
She loves me now. We're great now, but at that point,
there you
so
have
much,
it.
So.
All right, well, let's just talk about some of the family dynamics, I guess. Were there boundaries? I mean, how do you balance the funeral home life and the family life, when you're living in it, working in it, all at the same time? And what advice could you give to our listeners?
Well, the dinner table is kind of more of a board meeting than anything.
Accurate.
Yeah. We're I don't know. I feel like growing up, it was it was always the topic. The funeral home was kind of our main conversation topic because that's what we all knew, and we were all wrapped up in, and it was your neighbors, your friends you're helping. So it's not like someone's coming home from Wall Street and trying to dump everything from their day on. It's a support system. It's working together.
Hmm. And I would say it wasn't necessarily like there wasn't, work life and family life. It was just life, and that's how we knew it. It was all just one. And, I try to, like with my kids now too, have them involved, but, I don't know, not.
It's not just a job, it's a calling, and a calling
Yeah.
follows home.
Yeah.
So,
Vacation didn't start until we got to the interstate and got on the interstate. Because if the phone rang before then, we were turning around growing up.
yeah.
You were not going.
I do remember that as a kid. Weren't there times we had the van all loaded and the boat hooked up to go to the cabin and then
Yeah.
the
Totally.
phone rang?
Yeah.
Change of plans. One of the things I know today, you can't hardly go a day or a week without learning of corporate funeral home acquiring an independent family funeral home business, and you guys have been able to resist that and to be successful as an independent family business. And so, what are some of the advantages, I guess, of being independent as a business owner to the community?
I think the main value you have is you don't have to be bottom line driven. Yes, you have to make money. You have to make a profit and a decent living in return for what you do. But it's not all about that. And the family-owned business, I think, is going to shine better in that light than those that are driven by the dollar only, the bottom line. Doug Manning had written a book a lot of years ago, The Power of Presence, and he talks about having the confidence, the family's having the confidence in you that when you walk in the door, it's going to be better.
Yeah, and I would just say, it's the ones making the decisions, the ones, we're right here. We're in it, boots on the ground. We're seeing these families firsthand and, greeting them when they come in the door. And, I think that's so much different than someone far away that doesn't really know how the business runs to be making those decisions.
Yeah, I think you can do a job because you're required to do it, and you can do it because you want to do it or you desire to do it, and you have what we would call the want to. You want to help somebody because they're in your community and you really care. But if you're doing it just because it's your job, it's going to be a different experience for the customer, is what I see.
Right. Well, you have the advantage of a lifetime relationship with these people, so it's naturally going to be, ideally, if you're doing things right, there's going to be confidence in you because of that relationship, and that's part of a family business. Confidence in your family and what you're going to do for them. I'll mute while the train goes by.
Is this where we say oofta? Does oofta count here? Oofta. That was timely train passing there. Let's talk a little bit about challenges that you might have seen as a family-owned and operated business. What kind of challenges? We kind of touched on, giving up some of your vacations and maybe some of your personal time or weekends or what have you. But other than that, what are some of the things that stand out?
Yeah, I mean, I think always being on top of each other can breed a little bit more stress. You don't really go home and get away from it because you go home and you talk about it more, which it can be a negative, but it also can help you walk through it or work through it a little quicker than having to wait till Monday to get back to it. If you can just nail it in the head now and kind of get past it.
I've never worked in a family business before, but I would think that one of the most difficult things to do be have a tough conversation with your family member, a performance related issue, or someone just holding your family member accountable for something. I mean, how difficult can that be, or does anything stand out to you in that regard?
And being from Minnesota, you tend to just not address it and let it get fester and get worse, and then over.
Is that what they call Minnesota nice?
Yeah.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
Minnesota passive aggressive.
Yeah. I think in certain situations it's easier depending on exactly what the discussion is, just because of your family, but then also in certain ones it's a lot tougher too,
Yeah, but sure, there are going to be disagreements when you work together, right? So how do you handle those when they come up?
Between us, I don't think we really had disagreements to speak of. My brother was my partner for a long time, and he retired 2 years ago now. And there were some challenges there. But really on this level, no, I don't really think so with us. That
Well, I mean, I think for when I came back and started working, Ashley was my direct superior. So I think from her side, it was probably more challenging to have to deal with the little craphead brother that didn't really listen to her. But
what?
Yeah, can we make
Never
sure that's
happened.
recorded?
That never happens. Sibling rivalries never take place.
No.
I can say it now. There's no repercussions anymore.
No, I think it was definitely, difficult for Tyler and I sometimes. I mean, sometimes for the most part, we worked really well together, but there's just some things, like he's fresh out of college and I'd been doing it for a while. And, when I was fresh out of college, I was,
you're really always, details meant a lot to you, and Tyler at that point wasn't as big on details, kind of like me, not follow through in details as much. So,
Yep. So
How'd you decide who worked holidays and weekends and stuff? Did you have a rotational, I guess, process as far as who was covering which business?
it just kind of our on-call schedule for holidays at that point was just kind of however it fell.
Okay.
And you were covering for everywhere. So, sometimes a couple of us were on, sometimes just one of us was on. It just kind of fell the way it fell. And the nice thing is, though, is, we could still be together at Christmas at mom and dad's house and be on call at the same time. So you could mix them together.
I love that. It's what you got to do. Whatever it takes, right?
Yep.
Whatever it takes.
Exactly.
So, Tim, let's shift gears a little bit to, succession planning. You already mentioned a little bit about your brother a couple of years ago, but when did you know it was the right time for you to take a different role and maybe step back? And what's that transition look like for you?
Well, Ashley was really growing into the job of running it, and she definitely had. By the end of the road, my energy and drive was gone. But I didn't really realize it at the time. Now in time, I look back and I see, oh yeah, I was burnt out. It was maybe not burnt out, but tired, just tired. And different times, how did I know? It used to be that I always would look forward to Monday morning because we started a new week. Later years, it was, oh shoot, we start tomorrow, huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it takes a toll of you over time. I mean, being on call, serving families, day after day, week after week, and stressful, emotional situations. I mean, that can take a toll on anybody.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but I've always loved what I do, but it does take a toll over time. And getting older is a big part of it. You wear down, and then you realize, boy, there's other things out there I can do in terms of enjoy life more and. Not that you enjoyed it plenty in the working years, but now it's your own schedule.
Did you ever think about selling your funeral home outside of your family?
I did not know.
Not even an option.
Not an option.
Good for you. Good for you. And why is that, you think?
It was the right thing. These guys were made for it. Ashley and Tyler were just talking about how there was, when he first came back, there was, challenges a little bit, the management and different styles and so forth. A really good thing that happened, I think, for all of us was Tyler getting his own business just as a quasi neighboring business of what we are here.
And Tyler and I have discussed that, amongst us too, and we both kind of feel the same. If it was both of us running the original Hoff, we would have found a way and made it work.
Right.
But this, I think makes it so that we can still have, a great brother-sister relationship and share ideas, work together, help each other out, all that.
For their own personal well-being and dreams and goals, that's a good way to go. But additionally, you look at the changing face of funeral service and declining revenue per call numbers. And we had two owner families in this business previously. One makes a lot more sense from that financial perspective and that changing dynamics within it. You can still have a nice living.
Yeah, and share resources and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. So I'd love to know from Tyler and Ashley just what what it was like for you to step into, that leadership role following in your dad's footsteps.
I mean, for me, I guess it kind of felt like a slow transition because throughout the last few years, I was stepping into more and more of it, kind of knowing that this was the future. So it wasn't like a big transition, all at once. But I really enjoy it. I love it. It's been really fun to, follow in their footsteps and then be able to kind of, make it my own at the same time. I say make it my own, but we're not really making any big changes because what they were doing was, perfect. It's all about serving families and, being there for them. And
You're doing a real good job of putting some more structure to the business than was there before. We had grown so much over time and didn't still doing things the old way. Now you've got structure with staffing and schedule and procedures and practices. So
yeah, we'd always just kind of
figured out.
Yeah, figured it out. We knew what the rules were, that kind of thing. But, as we've grown and stuff, and I'm finding too, staff really wants more policies and procedures, and they want to know what to do. So we're trying to get a lot more of that down, kind of really build that foundation.
And for me, it was a little bit more of a flip a switch kind of scenario with the purchase, so I didn't have the chance to really ease into it. So I remember just feeling like I was drinking from a fire hose every day for about the first year or so. Overall it was good, but we were coming down off of COVID, so it was busy. So we didn't have our traditional slow times. It was a very busy year, and then we had some staffing changes, and I guess the one thing I didn't realize before I was in the role I'm in is the amount of stress that I'm sure Dad felt, but he didn't show.
Yeah, you got the stresses of running a business and all of those responsibilities, as well as the day-to-day at-need funeral director requirements. Yeah, it can take a toll.
Yep, absolutely.
Way to go, Dad.
Yeah.
You did it. So you just jumped right in, Tyler, and you were just learning and right in COVID. And that brings up a whole nother, I guess, area of conversation. I'd love to know what each of you maybe learned from that whole experience in COVID. It was just, 5 years ago? What have y'all learned from that whole time period?
Gosh, that was crazy. I remember didn't even know if we could be in the office together those first few weeks, and we had a rotating schedule, so we were deemed essential, so we could work, but we couldn't. We couldn't risk having all of us get sick at the same time, so
Right.
we'd take 1 week work from home, and the next week you're in the office.
Yeah. But I think it showed us how important services are, because just thinking back, and you still have the conversations with those families that weren't allowed the service and weren't allowed the community gathering and stuff at the time. And just hearing, I truly think that that's affected them and, and probably will for a long time. So I hope that from that, everyone can gather how important services are and to keep doing that.
Yeah, I don't remember what the regulations were in Minnesota, but there were limitations on how many people could gather at a certain time, right?
Yeah, for the longest time we had you could only have 10 people there. And I remember a guy died and I think he had 10 kids. So the kids could be there, but their spouses couldn't even be with them, or the grandkids, or, and it's so tough. You need to all be together.
That's I guess one of the positives that came out. They started doing live streaming in 2020 because you couldn't gather physically. And
Right.
So now people said, hey, we can just broadcast this service, and wherever you are, you can participate just like you're there in person. Did you guys experience that, or I don't know what kind of live streaming you're doing now at Hoff, but would you share with our audience what your thoughts were?
Thankfully, Tyler was working with us during COVID because he was able to figure out all the tech side of the live streaming and get that all figured out. As we saw at the beginning of this, I struggled a little bit. So Thank goodness for him there. But yeah, it was something we really utilized there. And I believe both of us still utilize it very frequently with families we serve.
Yeah, it's I think initially we just got a camera and started recording videos and putting them up on the obituary page afterwards, if I remember right. And then we got an actual streaming service to come in, and that was a huge help because we had it was just kind of cobbled together before that. So now funeral homes have lots of options for what streaming service they want to use, and it makes it a lot easier. And it brought us forward about 30 years in about 3 months, it felt like.
What I remember though is as great as it was, the streaming services, the live stream. After COVID was essentially gone, we kind of wasn't in our normal offering to the family to say, would you like the service live streamed? You eventually realize they're expecting it. It's just part of the standard of service you have to have. So I think I know Ashley, I think you guys are pretty good now about every family gets the option to have it live streamed. Because the expectation is going to be there.
That's so good. I don't know what you guys are seeing, but we see more families with the on-demand viewing versus the live viewing. Because you'll have good participation there, but somebody may watch the same service 2 or 3 different times after the service because they want to see, who sang this song and who was wearing what and who sat where and
the messenger. Yeah.
Hey, let's shift gears. Just talk about challenges overall. I know we touched on a few of them, but I'd love to just ask you directly. As a business owner, 21st century here, 2025. What kind of business challenges are you seeing? And what can you share with our group about those challenges?
A big one I see is so many families, well, a higher percentage of families are shifting from a service, probably cremation, with a memorial. They're shifting from that to, we'll just cremate and do it on our own, or maybe we won't do anything. And we as funeral directors need to find the right answers for training our directors on a regular basis to best deal with that. We can't recover all of those, but we have to recover what we can.
Yeah.
To get more people having the service again. It's an increasing number, and that's a concern, to be honest.
So the cremation rate in Minnesota, I'm sure it's over 60%, I would imagine, right?
70?
70%.
Yeah, I think we're 65 in our area.
We're 70 in our area right now.
Yeah.
Oh.
And so a lot of those are still what they would call direct, or are they still having a service, or what's the breakdown there?
Of our families that are choosing cremation right now, I would say 32%, I just did this math, are immediate. So they're either not doing a service or they're doing it on their own.
Increased.
So, which is just crazy.
I remember tabbing that just about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I think we were like 24. That's significant.
Yeah, that always blows me away. And I don't know that I know the exact answer on that. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. But, either I know sometimes it comes down to money, but I think even more than that, it might just be they don't understand the value of a service and what's really involved. And they just want to take a shortcut because they don't know a better way. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I think we need to do better about educating the public too on the importance of the service and what it does, for you. I've had a few families that have said, well, we don't want a service or we're not going to do a service. And I've been able to help them understand. And then they end up doing more of a visitation, a gathering. So it's not the full blown service, but it's something, to start them on a healthy grief journey. But I think it's just getting the education out there to them.
Well, and I think a lot of families, they just, when you say funeral and they get something goes off in their head, like, no, I don't want to sit in a crusty church and have some pastor that didn't know mom or dad tell us, what to do. A lot of people don't understand that there's other options, that there's, funeral celebrants that can build a message based around their life and really make it personal for everyone to, it's bad to say enjoy, but to really enjoy the service and really get something out of it. And that's a huge piece that we just need to change as an industry going forward. The industry has just changed the perception of what a funeral is and what you can do to really make it a more meaningful day for that family.
Another thing I wonder about is how do you define celebration of life? In my view, so many families seeing that as this big, uplifting, fun event and the funeral home's not involved. That's not the reality, but that's the understanding of too many people. And I think it's going to be key to help these families going forward know that we can help you with the celebration of life. We can make this flow easier and better for you, this non-funeral event in their eyes.
Yeah, and I think if somehow as a funeral professional we can somehow articulate the value of having a gathering and why we're going to spend time together. I think Dr. Wolfeld, I forget the exact phraseology, but he says, how about we activate your grief support network or something like that, if we don't have a visitation. And so, and they no one's ever put it that way. Well, yeah, so of course we want to activate our grief support network. So let's have a visitation. But they're related there, and I just love the way he puts it. He also says things like, when words are inadequate, we have a funeral. And so I've just learned a few things from just hanging around him, and so I just feel like that's got to be able to help families.
That's
Just
got to be
being
good
able to
points
ask those questions.
to lay that out for family in a constructive manner, in a positive manner that help open their eyes. So,
But other than cremation and disposition types, what about other challenges that you're seeing in your business?
I just think, I guess it's a challenge that there's so many options out there, and so many different needs that the business needs, and trying to really hone in and focus and what's best for my business and what might be best for Tyler's business might not be best for mine, but just really taking it all in and finding the best way forward, I think is too many options is difficult sometimes.
Well, what's that called? The paradox of choice.
Yeah.
You get frozen with too many options. So we need to help families limit their options so they can make better decisions.
Yeah, well, then
You're right.
there's from the business side, there's a lot of options, not even just for the consumer, but just things that we can do or different avenues we can go down, and really trying to develop what is our core goal with how we're going to serve families, and what do we need to do that, and really trying to put that more of a strategic plan together, and then really see that out. Try new things along the way, but things that really fit into the vision of what you're trying to do, and not just try every new shiny thing that goes by.
Yeah, then there's no consistency. But I did hear one time that new creates momentum. So sometimes when you try something new, your customers, your families can get behind that, and that can be real beneficial for the value that you create for them, right?
Yeah.
right.
Right.
I think some of the common challenges we hear are personnel, finding talented people. You hear the people coming out of mortuary school may not be the same caliber you're looking for necessarily. I don't know if that's that way in Minnesota, but I've heard that in other areas. Have you seen that from a staffing perspective, some of the challenges?
Yeah, staffing is definitely a challenge. Less people going into it, and yes, the caliber isn't always to the quality that I guess we thought that it would be. But I was just actually at a U of M networking event for the mortuary science students just last week, 2 weeks ago.
What was
And
it?
I was
Networking? What was it?
It was a networking event. So the U of M, all their mortuary science students, their current students, the one that just started and the ones that are already a year in, they bring in funeral homes to just meet and greet, get to know each other, start building those relationships. And I got to say, I actually walked out of there a lot more impressed.
Yay.
I felt like there was a strong, big handful of students that had the potential, and they were wanting to learn and ask great questions, and it gave me a little bit of hope. So
I think there's a lot of students that go to mortuary school thinking it's cool or interesting, but there were more than a couple students in my class several years ago that had never even been to a funeral service, which just boggled my mind. So, I think
Let me make sure I get this right. They went to mortuary school. They're in mortuary. They've never been to a funeral.
correct.
Wow.
I think universities are getting a lot smarter about how they handle the kind of the intake process, because the burnout rate is insane in this industry. So to make sure people are prepared for really what they're going to school for, so when they come out, they're ready to hit the ground running and they're not shell shocked when they get out of school.
Yeah. Well, Ashley? I don't know how to ask this question, but from an appearance standpoint, where some of the students meet the standards of the Hoff brand and reputation, how's the best way to ask that? I mean, did they have facial tattoos and piercings everywhere, or were they normal looking?
there were a great majority that were normal looking, and that I would feel comfortable putting in front of a family.
Yes.
So that was very pleasant to see, because I don't know that I've felt that in years past.
Well, and hear me. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having tattoos, but obviously, you can still have a great heart and do a great job. but you do have standards on your professionalism, shall we say, right?
Yes.
What is an old widow or widower? How are they going to view that?
Yep.
We don't know, and
Yep.
we don't want that to be a risk.
Yep.
Which makes me think, so the Hoff Funeral Enterprise, do you guys have a dress code or a policy on appearance, or, how do you handle, your staff and what they wear and how they look in front of families?
We did get a handbook into play finally here maybe 6 months ago, and that does have a dress code in there. So before it was always just, you just trusted that everyone would, wear something professional. And for the most part, people did. But yeah, now we have a real dress code. I mean, it's
Unfortunately, you
pretty,
just kind of have to do that.
it is. It
Nowadays.
is. And, it's pretty lax, so to speak, because I feel like people should be able to kind of wear what they're comfortable in, but within the realms of looking professional. So,
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
for in Austin here, we have we have funeral suits, so everyone wears the same thing on the day of the service, which is wonderful. But we're a little bit more relaxed during the week or when you're not in front of a family. But anytime you meet with the family, tattoos need to be covered up. You need to be presentable. There's just a certain common sense standard that needs to be that you need to hold yourself to.
Yeah, so when it comes to succession planning, I mean, you guys are living that. So were there any challenges, maybe, or lessons, if you will, that would be good for the audience to know about?
I By the time I got to the point, Paul, that I was ready to transition to Ashley, I was just tired, and in hindsight, I regret not going back and finding a quality third party consultant person, someone that could guide us through it. I think, Ashley, I told you, just go talk to the accountant. We'll figure it out. I don't know. It would have been better to have a plan. And
So your advice, just to be clear, is to have a plan, start early, maybe get
Yep.
someone else involved.
yes, right.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing. You want to get a fair amount. I mean, obviously, she wants a fair purchase price, and you
Right.
want a fair selling price.
Right.
And so there's a healthy balance there. You don't want to take advantage of your family member either way. So
No,
what's
and it's
fair?
all-
That's the question.
There's all kinds of angles and perspectives on it, and you want it best for everybody. What's a good thing for everybody? But it's more than anything. If you have a plan with the right a person assisting you, you're much better off.
So when would be a good time to start? Is there a certain age or a?
Well, for us, it was different because we had two successions on top of each other, basically, my brother then myself. Age-wise, no, I don't think there's a magic age to it. I think it's more of if you see it 5 or more years out, probably 5, start getting a plan. If you don't have a natural successor, look at your staff. Is there someone there that could be? And then look at, do you want the funeral home to continue in the manner of serving families that you've always served families? You want your brand, your name to mean something going forward. It's got a lot. That's got a lot to do with it. You can, I think, sacrifice a little bit of value if you need to for that purpose.
I think that's what we're seeing is that these questions keep coming up. Obviously, we've got an aging population in the United States, and it's not just the population, but the independent owners are in that demographic, right? They're aging also. So it's a natural conversation that needs to happen. My advice would be the sooner the better, because it doesn't hurt to start earlier, but it does hurt to start later, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it can't ever hurt to start too soon. And we're all in the pre-planning business, and
Right.
it's okay to start having these conversations, even if you don't have all the answers.
Right.
Yeah, and I've got friends that they're either have purchased or are trying to purchase funeral homes from, might be family members or other independent people they've worked for, and the common sentiment that I've heard along the way is an owner comes in and they hire them and say, oh, like you'll be able to buy my business at some point, and then the conversation stops there and they don't want to talk about it anymore. So you got the buyer that's on the end of, well, I'll work for you, but I'm not going to work for you forever, and then buy it when I'm 65. I'd like to do something sooner than later. So once you put that premise out there, really, cultivate that relationship and help them learn the business now, and really put a plan in place so it's clear and transparent. Because if it's 10 years down the road and nothing's happened, what are they going to stay around for if they're not going to be able to purchase the business that they were promised?
Yeah, I just think it's important to document what's most important to you as the seller. So if you may or not have a successor in mind, but your legacy, the Hoff name, means something to you. It meant something to your dad. It meant something to the communities where you live. And so if that's important, you want to preserve that as long as you can. So otherwise, you're going to sell to the highest bidder and move. And that's not, it didn't sound like that was even an option. So,
And I've heard of someone looking at their options, the owner looking at their options to sell. And there was a third party funeral service consultant helping them, and they showed them different values. Here's the high value if you want to go to private equity. And the funeral home's perspective was, well, I better get at least $1 million more because I'm going to need to move town and build a house somewhere else. I couldn't live here anymore. I want to live here.
Right. It's still your community, and yeah. Yep. Well, and now, retired, you can still work to the extent that you want to work, when there's, so that's, that's the nice part of it this way.
The most money is not always the best option.
one of the biggest mistakes I've seen is sellers wait too long to have the conversation. They try to time it just right, and it's really hard to time.
With the right advice, you can bring that next generation ownership in with a minority interest over time, pieces over time, till they get to a point of having some substance, and then they can make the rest of the purchase.
Yeah, I loved the gradual succession where it happens over time, so it's not so abrupt, and it's not shocking to the community, and it's not disruptive to your customer base, your family base. And but again, you got to start ahead of time.
Right. Yeah. For us, it really wasn't an option, but generally speaking, that's the way to go.
Hey, one thing we haven't talked about yet is charitable giving, and I know, Tim, you're real involved with the grief camp there in Minnesota. You want to talk just briefly about what your philosophy is on charitable giving there at your business, and maybe what pieces of advice we could give to our listeners?
Our whole family's had the joy of being involved in Healing Heart Connection and Children's Grief Camp here in Minnesota. It was started about 20 years ago, and I served on the board for a number of years. And Jenny's been a very active camp counselor. Anyway, what I've found is with giving of yourself, the more you give to an organization, the more you grow in terms of relationships, making a difference in someone else's life. So many things I've been a part of, I've received so much more back than I've given to it.
And how did it make you feel?
Good. And I think you're seeing great. You're seen as, in a lot of the families you serve, as having the heart, wanting to make a difference and helping them.
So how do you decide every year how much should be set aside for charitable giving purposes in your business?
We've really never did any straight up budgeting. When our state association, the Minnesota Funeral Directors, started this organization, it was first called Minnesota Foundation for Children. Over time, it grew into what it is now, this grief camp. But what we believe then, and believe now even more so, is funeral directors have too much bad press. Let's get caught doing something right, helping these kids go to grief camp, doing something good for the community. It is marketing, it is public relations, but if you're there with your heart, just tell the people what you're doing.
Well said. Well said. All right. So looking ahead, we can't have a podcast episode without talking about the future a little bit. So let's turn our attention to the future. I mean, what excites you guys the most about the future and the next generation of funeral planners?
From a business side, there's, like you had mentioned, the current funeral home owners are in the baby boomer age, so they're retiring, and there's not too many of them that do have a real succession plan, or especially in areas where it doesn't work. So finding opportunities to grow by acquisition mainly, and with how many funeral homes are kind of coming for sale and will be coming for sale, you can really be strategic with how you pick which locations you'd like to bring in. And I think there's just a lot of opportunity for growth and to bring your level of service to a new community.
Yeah, growth is good. It's a lot better than the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's well said, Tyler. Ashley, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, kind of along Tyler's line too, just with the growth and there is so many of the one-man shops out there yet too, and that's going to be, a little more difficult of a business to sell because who wants to come in and just be working by themselves? So, I do see, maybe bringing some more of those under our umbrella and under our brand and kind of growing in that way, and just to keep focusing on the level of service that we're giving families. And we've really put a strong focus, I would say, as of recently on our staff too. And I feel like we've always treated our staff well throughout the years, but just really looking out for their well-being. We started some mental health check-ins and that kind of stuff too, and just whatever we can do to support them, because if they're, well taken care of and happy with what they're doing, they're gonna, support and serve these families even better, and that's our future.
That's so good. And funeral planning and funeral service is the team sport these days, right? It's not a one-person show.
I think a lot of the Hoff brand, all these guys, our success has been offering the new options out there, new ways of doing things. In the early years of when cremation was first coming into scaring the bejesus out of all the funeral directors, they would run and hide. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do. Well, I believe then, as I believe now, if you embrace what these changes are, you'll be in business for a long time and doing very well. I think the funeral homes nowadays that aren't embracing those things of events, I think are having what's called a going out of business slowly sale. They just don't know it yet. So.
Wow, you're so right. So I guess let's talk about some advice here. If there was some advice you give to our listeners today, each of you, one piece of advice you want to share, we'll just go around the horn here. Tyler, you want to go first?
Sure. I guess my advice would be there, from the family side of it can be pretty stressful at times to, have that family dynamic that you're working with every day. But it's really remember that family you work with every day is also your support network. So they understand at a very intimate level what you're dealing with at work, and to really use them to help you, mentally, emotionally, but also to really help each other out. And, we all have weaknesses, but if you can focus more on everyone's strengths and put people in position to succeed by, being honest with your family and your business partners, obviously, that I'm not so good in this area, but you're really good, Ashley. Could you help me out here and help me learn, or just kind of help take this off my plate for me?
Ooh, I like that a lot. Just got to ask for help sometimes, don't we?
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially from his big sister.
That's right. Good advice,
How
Tyler.
many times did you call me for tech support today?
I know.
Let's be real.
Nah.
That's too soon. That's too soon.
We are each better at our own things. That you are correct.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Ashley?
Yeah. I said he was right.
Okay. Yeah, we got that recorded too.
Yeah.
So, Ashley, one piece of advice, I guess, is complimenting your family on a regular basis, right?
Yep. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that, I guess my piece of advice is just to lead with your heart, in the families that you serve, in your coworkers, in your employees, in your communities, whatever it is, just lead with your heart. When you have those tough decisions or tough situations, I truly feel if you just follow your heart and your values, it's going to work itself out. It's not going to magically be easy and go away, but it's going to work itself out. So
Lead with your heart. I love that.
yeah.
All right, Tim.
Oh boy, these guys said it as good or better than I can. Advice going forward. Yeah, lead with your heart. Always look for the changing trends to help and capitalize on those, make the business better in terms of the family business and succession. Yeah, lead with your heart. Lead with your heart. I can't say that better, that part.
It seems to me when you do those things, the numbers end up taking care of themselves, don't they?
Correct.
Over time. You're doing it for the right reason.
Price yourself accordingly, but take care of the families.
I love it. Good advice there from all three of you. And so thank you so much. It's been fun having you here. We've laughed and we've shared some good insights. And so just want to tell our audience, thank you for joining us today on the Director's Playbook podcast. If today's conversation was helpful to you in any way, feel free to like it and subscribe. And, if you have any feedback to share, please email us at the Director's Playbook at funeraldirectorslife.com. And it's been a joy to have all of you on. It means a lot. So until next time, take care, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Paul.
Thank you.